Okay, I guess we'll get started with the session this afternoon. And thank you for bringing your instruments, because a little bit later, I'm going to have you guys do a little work, a little homework. So hopefully that'll happen. But talking about learning tunes, how do you typically learn tunes? You know, when you're approaching a new tune, how do you approach learning tunes? That's a question anybody who wants to respond. Yeah.
I'll probably listen to it first.
Okay.
I want to hear that.
Cool. Yeah, that's always a good strategy, to listen to actually several versions, because you never know. Because we're jazz players, we like to interpret things our own way, and sometimes if you learn so-and-so's version, Miles was notorious at this, of doing a version of a song and then everybody started playing it Miles' way, and that became the standard way to play the tune, even though it wasn't the right way to play the tune, or at least the way that the composer intended it. But it was the Miles way, and it worked. So a lot of this information, if you're familiar with the Jamie Aebersold series, David Baker did a book called How to Learn Tunes. It's volume 76 of the Aebersold series. And so, you know, if you don't remember anything that I said, you can always get that one and hear some of the stuff. But anyway, one of the things that you want to look at, of course, when you're learning a tune, is to look at the form. What's the form? Because obviously that's the thing, that the structure of the tune is what we use to improvise on. You know, it's the essence. So what is it? 12-bar blues, 16-bar blues, 32, 36, 64, whatever. Okay? And also with regard to the formal structure, is it AABA? Because the cool thing about when you learn a tune that's AABA, you learn the A section, you've learned 3/4 of the tune, right? Pretty much. Now, typically you might have a few changes in the first ending, second ending, and there at the end. But once you learn the basics of the tune, you've got 3/4 of the tune. So then all you have to do is concentrate on the bridge. Okay? Or ABAC, whatever. So you know, all the different tune structures, and so you'll listen for that. You do a little bit of analysis. Now, you don't have to do a lot of analysis, because I know a lot of us are stressed for time. So you know, how much analysis of the tune you want to do is kind of up to you. But if you really want to learn tunes, because I know we all have iReal Pro these days, and we can call up tunes whenever we want to, but ideally you want to get that tune in your head so that you don't have to be stuck with the crutch. And but you know, we all know it's a technological world and we've got everything there. Okay? So you want to take a look at the primary melodic structure, melodic construction. There's two examples up there. Both of these tunes are based on simply the pentatonic scale. One, the minor pentatonic scale, the other, the major pentatonic scale. So, what does this do? This helps you when you're, after you've learned the tune in the quote-unquote standard key, and I put that in quotes because I'm a singer too, and as many of you heard the other night, and the guys were they weren't really mad at me, but you know, I was doing that tune in a key that is not one that they typically play it in. But this thing that I use as my instrument when I'm singing, you know, I can't push a button and have the right note come out. So, you know, I have to place a tune in a key that works for this instrument, so it doesn't get strained and I don't go out of range and all that big stuff. And actually, as a male singer, it works pretty well. Other guys, when I'm working just as a singer on a gig, they like me because I can say, okay, we're doing this tune in the standard key, and they go, oh, yeah, how nice. But I also work as an accompanist with a lot of female singers, and that just doesn't work for them. And so you have to make those adjustments. I think Dennis was talking about that yesterday, about learning tunes in different keys. And a little bit later on, we're going to get to work on that a little bit, but by using this kind of approach. Because if you did a quick analysis of the melody of Sunny Moon for Two, you find out that it's simply a descending minor pentatonic scale. Yeah. So technically, you could play it in any of the 12 keys if you know your minor pentatonic scale, because it just descends. Right?
Yeah.
Okay? And likewise, Amazing Grace, major pentatonic, 5 notes. It's just there. Now, is that a jazz tune? Could be. I've heard it played that way. But, let's see. In fact, let's try this. You guys know Sunny Moon for Two? How many know Sunny Moon for Two? Anybody not know Sunny Moon for Two?
I heard it last night for the first time.
Okay. All right. Well, you've got it up there. You may not be able to see it, but think of your minor pentatonic scale. In fact, let's do the B flat minor pentatonic scale, which is your B flat, major scale. All right. So let's just play it from bottom to top. We'll just use quarter notes. Okay? Concert B flat.
Concert B flat.
Concert B flat. So C minor for the B flats, and G for the E flats. All right, here we go. In quarter notes. 2, 3, and. Go up to the root on the top, okay? Ready? And. Okay, and the other thing is that this is a blues tune, so the melody is repetitive and riff-like, okay? So, now play from the top down. Ready? Go. This time, when we get down to the bottom, what I want you to do, I wanted to see what it did there. All right? Now, this time, I want you to sing it. All right? Okay, don't play it, sing it. Ba, 2, 3, go. Ba, da, 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 da. Okay, now let's sing it in the rhythm of the tune. Okay, just sing the first 4 measures. Okay, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Da, 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 da. Okay, all right, that's all we need to do. Now let's play it. 2, 1, 2, 3, and. And then it repeats, right? Okay? Now, let's change the key. All right? Let's do it in the key of G. So we need our G minor pentatonic scale. So let's do first, play it from the bottom to the top, and then from the top to the bottom, and then we'll sing it, and we'll sing it in the rhythm, and then we'll play it. Okay? So, here we go. G minor pentatonic. 2, 3, quarter notes. Top down. 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay? Now, let's play it in that key. 2, 3, and. Okay, somebody give me another key. F?
Major,
C?
yes.
C, okay. All right.
C more.
C minor. All right, so C minor pentatonic.
Play the scale again.
Play the scale. C minor pentatonic. 3, and. Top down. Singing top down. Okay, good. The rhythm, singing. 2, 3, 4. Okay, playing. 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, now let's do a key that we probably don't normally play in a whole lot. How about B? Okay. All right. So same process. Sing the scale. Okay. Yeah, give me a B, Kim. Okay. Bottom to the top. 2. Sing first. 2, 3, and. Top down. Okay. Sing the rhythm of the tune. 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's play. 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, so you get the idea. Should be able to play that tune in all 12 keys pretty easily. All right? So whenever somebody calls it, hey, let's do it in E tonight. And you can go, yeah, I'm ready to roll. Okay? So anyway, we won't do Amazing Grace, even though we're in the church. Some of us probably need it, but you know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Reverend Tim.
You're welcome.
All right.
Reverend.
Okay, so sometimes melodies are chordal. In other words, they just outline notes in the chord. Some of you may know this tune. It's kind of an older tune. Yeah, changing bounds. Okay, that wasn't close to the melody, but and sorry, this is so small here. But my PDFs didn't enlarge enough without going real fuzzy. So as you see there, you've got mostly chord tones, at least in the A section of the tune. Okay, and also chord tones in the bridge as well. So, and I think Dennis was alluding to this yesterday. If we were learning this tune and then having to play it in a different key, rather than thinking of individual notes, thinking of relationships of notes to each other by intervals. Okay? And, you know, that may be new for some of you, maybe old hat and say, yeah, I do that all the time. But it really helps. And also, the singing aspect helps. amazingly. Trust me, it does. Because too often when we're, or at least I have this experience with my students, is that when I ask them to play something before they really have it in their ear and can really sing it, they'll do the hunt and peck method, and they'll play, I don't know if any of you are teachers, but you know, it happens all the time. And then really what's happening is they're practicing in those errors. Because once the fingers go to a certain spot or a certain fingering, that's where they're going to go. Okay? And so they end up making the same mistake over and over, rather than doing a process that gets the tune in the ear, gets the tune in the voice, and then transfers to the instrument. A lot fewer mistakes. So continuing with primary melodic construction. Scaling. A tune like There Will Never Be Another You, where the melody is primarily scales. Up the scale, down the scale. Okay, it's very stepwise. Okay? Or is it diatonic? And by diatonic, I mean it basically stays in the key of the piece and it uses notes from that key, as we have in Blue Moon. And here again, if we're looking at the form of these tunes, There Will Never Be Another You is an ABAC tune. So we know, we learned the first 8 bars, now we have the third 8 bars learned as well. Now we have to learn 2 other sections. Although a lot of those ABAC tunes, the C section, at least at the beginning, starts out like the B section. Okay? Blue Moon is an AABA tune. Then we have tunes that are chromatic in construction, like Straight Note Chaser. So, learning the chromatic scale, and again, working on moving it to different places, different keys. Now I know everybody says that we should learn all the tunes in all 12 keys. Is it realistic? Well, for some people, yes, but probably not. But it is good to know a tune in at least 4 or 5 keys. Just in case you happen to work with one of us crazy singers who comes in and says, now I want to do Girl from Ipanema in A flat. Okay? So, if you run into that, now, you know, you don't want to be stuck with that. And speaking of that tune,
Which keys, like at transpositions down? I know my daughter's an alto, and when we do tunes, sometimes I'll transpose them down a third or a fourth.
yeah,
Is that maybe the best keys to start learning, a third and fourth below the standard keys?
that if you know that you're going to be working with a singer, either a third lower or a fourth lower, yes, that tends to be a pretty common denominator. Yeah, so you could start there and then go to other places. But a lot of that is determined by the tessitura of the song. In other words, the range where most of the song lays.
Yeah.
Okay, where most of the song is. Now, you can have a pretty wide range in terms of what the lowest note is and what the highest note is of the tune. But where is most of the tune? Okay,
Star Spangled Banner.
one of the hardest songs in the world to sing, and you've all witnessed the bad versions of it. Yes, but yeah, it's a hard song to sing, and the range is crazy. Why they determined that one to use is the next I don't know. because the melody was originally a drinking song. So
So
you didn't know that, huh?
They didn't care if they could.
Yeah. I mean, the melody that Francis Scott Key used for the national anthem was originally the melody to a drinking song. So, but that's a whole other subject and a whole other topic for another time. Yeah. So, in answer to your question, any other questions? Okay. All right. So, sometimes you get tunes that are sequential, like Blue Bossa. A lot of you have been playing Blue Bossa this week, okay? But have you played it in different keys? Okay, well, let's see what we can do. Let's take a look at what it does, all right? The tune itself, it has an octave leap at the beginning, and then it descends within the key, all right? And then, yeah, when we get to the third measure there, major seventh leap, okay? And then a lot of people do the octave jump again and descend, okay? So let's play it in this key, and then we'll do the easy thing of moving it up a step. All right? So here we go. I'll give you 4 plus 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. So, the other thing that is really important to know is how does the starting note of the tune relate to the home key and or the first chord? So in this case, when we look at it, the starting note is a fifth, right? And it's an octave leap. So, all right, now we're going to take it up to D minor. We're going to take it up a whole step. Now, we don't have it to look at, but we're going to use our relationships, and it's a little easier to just go up a whole step or down a whole step. It's when you start moving wider intervals away that become a problem. All right? So let's do it in D minor. 2, 1, 2, 3. A few funny things in there, okay? So what if we were to take it a fourth from here? A fourth from here, like F, okay? And F minor. So everything is going to move a fourth. All right? Either a fourth up or a fifth down, whatever works on your instrument. 2, 1, 2, 3. Let's try that again. Remember, the first interval is an octave, right? So, yeah, it's G minor for the, yeah. Here we go. 2, 1, 2, 3. the wagon yet? Okay.
I got back on and fell off temporarily.
Yeah. Okay, but that's, that's what you do, and you keep working the different keys. Start a step above, go to a step below, and then start widening that interval lead. It may be easier to go a fourth or a fifth away before you do the third away. I find that easier for me, but that's just me. Okay? All right, and then talking about the sequential nature of satin doll. Satin doll has a lot of neighbor tones, so it's not as challenging as trying to find a lot of movement. And then Autumn Leaves is another one with a sequential melody, because we have step, 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 leap, step, 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 leap, right?
Yeah.
And what is that leap in most cases? It's a 6, right? Because if I just name notes here in C minor or G minor, it goes G, A, B flat, and then it leaps up to E flat, which is actually 4th. Sorry, my brain is not working. And then you go down a step and do the same thing. G, A, up to D. All right. So it's sequential in that manner. Let's try the first 8 of this one. In the original key first, okay, G minor, but it doesn't start at home, does it? And this is another thing, when you're working, and just to give you, I don't know how many of you get to work with singers, but sometimes singers aren't quite as experienced. Okay, and so when they come up and tell you what key they're going to do, like for instance this tune, and they really give you the first chord, so you have to be careful. So the question to ask is, oh, you want to do this in this key? What's the first chord? Do you know the first chord that of the key that you want to do it in? Yes, ma'am.
Or they tell you the major key instead of the minor key. So they read the key signature, or they tell you.
Sometimes. Yep. And because some tunes start out in major, but they really end in minor, or they vice versa. They start in minor and end in major. "Fly Me to the Moon" is a good example. Starts in minor, but it really ends in major. Okay, so you kind of have to be. Hopefully, you'll be encouraging rather than discouraging. I know there's an attitude out there among some, not all, but among some, about working with singers. Some of you may have experienced that. But the important thing is if you can help them gain more knowledge, that really will help them on the bandstand, because really and truly they want to contribute to the product just as much as you do. And it's simply because we don't teach singers the same way we teach instrumentalists. You guys start learning about keys and all that good stuff from the outset. Singers don't necessarily do that. They use a lot of their ear, they learn a lot of stuff by rote, and they don't know the inner workings that they should. Okay, so
Their job is harder than ours,
that is true.
because they're in front of the band and the audience is listening to them. They're not listening to us. And if you make a singer look bad, and the audience doesn't know that, they think it's the singer's fault. And even if the singer makes a mistake, it's our job to fix it.
Indeed. And like I say, I work with a lot of singers as a pianist, but also I think because I work as a vocalist and as a singer, I understand. Amen
Yeah.
to the choir.
Yeah.
Right, Tom? Okay. So, and I always tell my vocal students that when you're in front of the band, whether your name is on the band and you're the leader or not, when you stand in front of that band, you're the leader.
Yeah.
Okay, and the rest of the band is looking to you for leadership. It's kind of off what our main topic was, but it's an important thing to know, because you never know when you're going to get that call for a gig and there's a singer on the gig, and if you want to work the gig, you take the gig and you do what's necessary, or you have your own group and you never work with singers ever again.
Sometimes
Lots of luck with that.
sometimes you get the gig because of the singer.
This is true.
They're hiring the singer.
This is true. Yes. Okay. So here we go. Autumn Leaves. Okay. However you do the first bar, I'll give you 4 + 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. All right. So, yep.
I've never played it in that key.
In G minor.
I played it out of the real book key, which is
Oh, yeah, you got the real book key,
Yeah.
which is the wrong key.
Right, and
Any of you have the real book, and it's in the
yeah,
yeah,
it's in like I don't know what's in it.
yeah. It's
In
in,
what?
it's in E minor, which is the alto key. They actually put in the C book. They put the alto part in the original real book. And I think since then they may have fixed it, but when Hal Leonard took over the real publishing of the real book. But yeah, a lot of people learned it in that key. But if you listen to Miles and Cannonball, they're playing it in G minor.
Okay.
This key. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Let's take it up a step and play it in A minor. Okay.
What's the
The first chord
what
would
is the
be
starting? If we're in a minor key, what's the starting pitch in relationship to the key?
in relation to the home key.
Yeah.
The starting note is 1.
Okay. So now we're in what key now?
A minor.
A minor.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. Let's try it. 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. First 8 bars. Okay, we learned the first 8 bars. We got half the tune. Okay. Now let's do it in D minor. Okay, which would be. Oh, sorry. This thing times out. All right, so that would mean in relation to the home key, the first note is D.
Is D.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And sometimes if you want to think in terms of the first chord of the tune, what is the relationship of the first note to the first chord of the tune? And then
It would be the fifth.
yeah. Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Staying on the wagon on that one?
I fall off the wagon at the very end when we hit the rut.
Ah, Yeah,
That
so,
chromatic,
it's stepwise, right?
yeah.
And it's still a leap, but it's a leap of a third.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
augment. Is it augmented?
No, it's well,
Yeah,
try
that's
it.
one thing.
I'm gonna try it. Yeah. All right. And we already did this one, but a lot of tunes have the repetitive riff concept going on for them. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the harmonic approach to tunes, because once you learn the melody, then you have to figure out what the changes are on a tune and figure out what the changes are in the different keys, right? So what is the harmonic mode? Is a tune in major? Is it in minor? The thing about jazz tunes is they don't necessarily stay in any one place for any length of time, so you need to be aware of that. And as we've said, sometimes tunes don't start at home, but they eventually get there at the end of the tune, okay? But they may go through some changes, as we say, because particularly in tunes that have an AABA format, the bridge is probably 99% of the time going to change keys. Okay? Now, sometimes, and I'm going to come back to this page, sometimes the change of key is pretty diatonic, as we can see in Take the A Train. A sections are in the key of C. When we get to the bridge, we modulate it to F, the 4. That's not too much of a challenge, but then you get to a tune like Body and Soul, where the A sections of the tune are in D flat major, and the bridge is in D major. So you've moved up a half step. Whole different set of things to deal with. So check that out when you are working on learning the tune. Where does the bridge go? And how do you get there? Is there a 2-5 to set up the bridge? In A Train? Yes, there is. In Body and Soul, most people play a 2-5 to get to the bridge, or at least most people that I play with. So, and then so then it works its way back to the D flat major, starting with the 2 chord. Okay, another tune on Body and Soul that doesn't start on the 1 chord, starts on the 2 chord. Okay? So, be aware of that. And then, what I always like to do, okay, we have, is group tunes together. What tunes have the same harmonic sequence, so to speak? A Train is an example. All right, if you look at and we'll just look at the A section. Who could name me another tune that has this same harmonic sequence in the first 8 bars? Yeah, because it's the same tune. Okay, yes. Okay, so that's a samba. Girl from Ipanema. Yeah. Now, at the end, you know, you're supposed to use the 5 chord that's the sub for the 5 chord, which is a half step above. But, in other words, it starts on the 1, we go to a dominant 2 chord, and then we go to the regular 2 chord, or if you want to use the theoretical language, it's 5 and 5, but Yeah, okay. On measures 3 and 4. Then you go to 2, 5, back home to 1. Okay? What else?
We played another Joe Bean tune.
Watch what happens.
Yeah,
Okay? Now, watch what happens is another tune. You have to account for what happens at the end of the A section and watch what happens, right? Okay? It does a chromatic thing. May I? Thank you.
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Same thing as, we can even do this. 2. Now it does a chromatic thing. Okay. Watch what happens. But it has the same harmonic sequence in the first 8 bars that A string does. So what you do is you look for tunes that fall into this same category, and you go, okay, if you get a tune called that maybe you don't know as well, but you know the harmonic sequence, you can blow on this tune because you know it's, the first 8 bars, the A section is like A string. Okay? And given all the variations and so forth. Then you have the tunes that are what I call the heart and soul tunes, where the harmonic sequence in the A section of the tune is 1, 6, 2, 5. Right? So, what do you got? Tunes that do this. How about Blue Moon?
Blue Moon?
Blue Moon, right? And the whole A section is 1, 6, 2, 5. Okay? You send it. Same thing.
Yeah.
The whole A section is 1, 6, 2, 5. You send it. Send it. Yeah. Some people call it a jazz tune.
No, I do, but I didn't understand what you said.
I talk too fast.
It's too soft.
Me talk too soft? Never. And then, once again, you have some sort of sequence. Like maybe a descending sequence of chords, like Doxy. Okay, is kind of an example of that, where the first group of chords descend in a stepwise fashion. Okay, and of course we have all the contrafacts. In other words, all the tunes that are based on chord changes of other tunes. Yeah, any rhythm section tune or any rhythm tune, okay? They're all based on I've got rhythm. Okay, so rhythming, oleo, okay? And so it behooves you to learn that particular chord sequence for rhythm changes. And again, learning it in the different keys so that, if somebody calls a rhythm change tune, but not in B flat, which is the key that everybody plays rhythm changes in, right? Except maybe sometimes somebody doesn't. Yeah.
Did you say Doxy was sequential?
Yeah, because it has a descending sequence.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, a question about rhythm changes. So, not hard to it's not hard to figure out a new key on that since it's kind of cyclical in the beginning, right?
Right.
1625, 1625, 1 4 sharp 4, 151, right? And then 3625 for the bridge, and then back to the same A, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you that would be pretty easier than some to transpose.
Easier than some, but
Yeah.
the problem usually with rhythm changes is that the tempo is the challenge more so than the chord changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's true. And the thinking of the chord progression in terms of Roman numerals as opposed to actual letter names will make it easier for you to transpose. Because if you're talking about doing, say for instance, A train, okay, you have to think C, and then D7, flat 5, D minor 7, G7, C, turn around, okay? But if I'm playing in the key of A flat, now I don't want to have to think A flat, B flat. I'm thinking 1, 5 of 5, with a flat 5, maybe I put it in there, maybe I don't. 2, 5, 1. And if I know my chords in that key, I can do that without having to think really hard about the actual notes that go with those chords. And that's what I'm trying to do, is to try to simplify the number of things that have to pass through this brain. Yes?
I have a question about that. So if you're doing that on something like all the things you are, so many different key centers.
Yeah.
Clearly I can do it in each section. How do I keep track of the whole thing in terms of the Roman numerals?
It's a matter of using the Roman numerals. It's a tune that doesn't start at home, right?
Right.
Okay? So, you're welcome. Where does it start? F minor. But the second 8 bars is the same chord sequence transposed. Okay? So it's 6, 2, 5, 1, and then 2, 5 to the new key. Now it's the same sequence. 6, 2, 5, 1, 4. Yeah, I forgot the T flat on the first. Yeah. 8 bars. Sorry about that.
Then it's
Okay.
that again.
Huh?
Then it's that again.
Okay. Yeah, but that's what you do in terms of the sequence. Okay. Hopefully that helps. The thing is,
You just gotta remember what the key changes are between the sections.
what I typically do, okay, is when I get to the end of the first 8 bars, I make that chord minor, and now it's 3.
Okay.
Okay? So, we all have our different ways of making it work, but that's what works for me. So, whatever key I'm dealing with, if I get to the end of that first 8 bars, now I make that chord minor, that's 3, and I go from there. Okay? Other questions? Okay, of course, we have our modal tunes, which are sometimes easier to transpose or in terms of the harmony, because it doesn't go very many places, doesn't go very far. So you don't have to worry about that.
Are those probably the least transposed?
I don't know. I think people have grown accustomed to playing them in
In those
those
keys?
pretty much those keys. But You know, one of the things is that a lot of the jazz standards, which a lot of modal tunes are jazz standards, which were written as instrumental tunes, and then somebody later came along and put lyrics to them. So you could run into a situation where you have someone who's singing a modal tune and they can't do it in D minor, moving to E flat. Okay, all right. But that does bring me to something that I always encourage everybody to do, and that is when you're learning tunes, so have a process, okay? Have a process. If this process doesn't work for you, that's okay. But this is one process that will definitely work. And we talked about at the beginning, listening is very important. Singing is very important. The more you sing, even if you're not a singer, the more you sing, the better it is. Because I think if you sing more and push buttons less, or move fingers less, you'll find that it's a shorter time frame to learn things.
You also remember the song. You don't as aptly forget it. And that's the way that's the way I started learning songs, was by ear, because I heard somebody say that's really the best way to get it inside.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, this music was designed to be learned by ear. It wasn't designed to be learned from a book. Because there weren't any books when this music started. And for a long time, there weren't any books. How did you learn how to play? You went and you listened to somebody. And maybe if you had a tape recorder, you took your tape recorder with you, and then you took it home and wore out the tape listening to try to figure out what was going on. But, you know, now we have the technology, and we have YouTube, and we have, you know, all of the apps and everything that help us shortcut our way, which is okay, because sometimes it does make things more efficient and faster. But it also doesn't help us use the neurons that help us retain, and to help us to be able to be flexible in changing and moving from one place to another. Okay? So, process, using your ears, singing, learning new tunes by ear, the starting melodic note. What's the starting melodic note? Both in relation to the home key and in relation to the first chord, if the first chord is not the home key. Okay? Melodic intervals. And this is where working on intervals, not only with your instrument, but also with your voice. Okay? And just scale exercises that you typically do on your instrument, try singing them. Okay? To help develop your ear and hearing those intervals. I do an exercise with my vocal students where I'll start ba-da, 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 and I get the whole octave. Get down the whole octave.
2 octaves, weren't you? Didn't you go into the second octave below?
No, I just did chromatic. 1 octave. I did 1 octave chromatic, but I did all of the intervals. I did all 12 intervals in between.
Gotcha.
And some of them are going to be harder than others to hear. That tritone is going to be hard to hear. Okay? The major 7th is going to be hard to hear because you're going to want to slide to the octave, okay? And you try to do it without help, okay? Don't let the piano help you. Don't let the piano help you, okay? And that will be better for you. All right. And then, as we talked about, transposing, learning the tune in other keys. I would say at least 4 other keys. You know, if you can do all 12, that's great. But realistically, the thing that you have to remember in this whole process is setting goals based on the time commitment that you have. How much time do you have? Okay? And how committed are you to this process, and how deeply do you want to go in the pool? You know, do you want to go in the deep end, learn as many tunes as possible, or you want to have a set of tunes that you know really well and you're cool with that? But always expanding your horizons is always good for you, and I encourage you to try to learn as many tunes as possible. There was at one time, not now, but at one time, I was dedicating myself to learning a new tune every 1 to 2 weeks. Now, by saying that I'm learning a tune, that means that I'm listening to several versions, I'm learning the melody, I'm singing the melody, I'm playing the melody, I'm dealing with the chord progression, okay, so that I know the chord progression. I'm working it in a couple of other keys, okay, and last but not least, I'm memorizing the lyrics. Okay, I don't know if anyone has ever said this to you, but I used to play with a tenor sax player a long time ago, and didn't matter what tune I called, he knew the lyrics to every tune. He was a tenor player. He wasn't a singer. He was a tenor player. So why is it important to learn the lyric of the song? I've got a couple of them up there, starting with the easy tunes. Yeah. It's about knowing what the story of the tune is all about, because the lyric is what gives us the story of the tune. And even if you're only going to play it instrumentally for the rest of your life, knowing what that song is about gives you information that may inform how you play the tune. So I would encourage you to learn the lyrics. There are a lot of websites that have lyrics. Not all of them are accurate. So sometimes lyric.com doesn't get all the lyrics right. But there are several websites that you can go to get lyrics. Okay, so encourage you to do that. All right.
Practice.
Okay. Practice. We already practiced setting room for 2. And the other one we were going to do was summertime, but that's okay. I'll open up for questions. Questions. Yes.
This is maybe a 2-part question.
Okay.
Bear with me.
Well, we'll do part 1, then we'll do part 2.
So, I always feel a little trepidation learning a tune in the sense that I have so many responsibilities as a guitar player. I know you can empathize with that, right? So I've got to have this chordal understanding, I have to have a rhythmic understanding, I really need to have a melody understanding too. And you said maybe it's what I really need to do is just like have a goal of like no matter what, this week I'm going to have learned this tune, or this week and a half I'm going to have learned this tune.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm asking you specifically, like, when do you tell yourself, well, I've learned that and I can move on. I don't need to, because for me, it's almost like the responsibility is so intense to have the tune really well understood. Like Shelley asked me on Monday night, or Tuesday, it's like, you can just call Autumn Leaves. I said, well, I don't really know Autumn Leaves. I mean, I know the melody, right? Definitely singing. but like, yeah, I can probably play the changes, but I don't know it, right?
Mhm.
So, I guess my question is like, when, for you personally, do you tell yourself, hey, well, I've learned that, and then the second part of that question would be, well, I've learned it, how do I continue to retain it? If I have a big catalog of tunes and my time, is what it is not a professional musician.
Right. Yeah.
Makes sense what I'm asking?
Exactly.
Things rust.
What's that?
They rust.
Yes, tunes rust if you don't go back and refresh yourself. So what I try to do is think in terms of having a 3-part catalog going on at the same time. Okay, I've got the tunes that I know. Okay, and so that if I'm on a gig and somebody calls a tune, I know that tune. Now, one thing that I did to help me really internalize chord changes, and this really worked for me, but if I wrote a contrafact on a tune, the process of spending that time writing the contrafact internalized those changes for me. And so I've got a whole book of contrafacts that I've written, but they helped me learn the changes to the original tune. Okay, but that was just me. Then, in the second part of the catalog, I have tunes that I know but I'm not certain of. Okay, that if somebody calls them, okay, I got to pull out my iReal Pro. Okay, and then I've got new tunes that I'm working on. And so in my practice, obviously I'm going to spend time on the new tunes. And say you've got an hour a day, or say you've got 5 hours in a week, okay, because you've got a full-time job, other responsibilities with family and all that good stuff. All right, so say you've got 5 hours a week to devote to this. All right, so one of those hours in the week I'm going to be devoting to new tunes. Okay, 2 of those hours I'm going to be devoting to the tunes that I kind of know but not really, because I'm getting them ready. And then the other hour is refreshing the old tunes that I know, but because I haven't played in a while, I've got to go back and take a look at them and play through them and just reacquaint myself with them. So that's how I would, if I've got 5 hours in a week, I only gave you 4. So
Figure out something else to work on.
no, the other hour, you're working on improvising. Okay, on whichever tunes that or you're working on changing the keys. So that last hour is whatever you need to work on. Now that's just an idea. It's going to vary for each of you based on what your goals are and what your time commitment is, and understanding that this is an individual journey that we're all on, and some people's journey, the flight path is going to look like this. Other people, the flight path is going to look like this, because they've got more time to spend with it. Okay? So, you have to be able to be okay with your flight path. Okay?
You say be okay with their plane,
Be okay with your flight path.
their flight path.
Yeah, in other words.
Everybody's path is different.
Right.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Just because otherwise it can be frustrating.
Question.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your,
Go ahead.
what's your process when somebody hands you a song and says we're playing this tonight?
If you have time to practice it on your horn, that's what you do. But if not, you do the mental practice. And being a saxophone player, okay, I'm gonna do the, what I call the Harold Hill method. Some of you know what that means. Air practicing, air guitar, whatever, air saxophone. But thinking through the processes and as much as possible, trying to internalize as much as the chord progression as possible. Now, if you're having to play the melody, of course you're going to have to do some air fingering on the head to the tune. But I have been known with my group to bring in a brand new tune they haven't seen before and say, hey, we're playing this on the gig tonight, right now. And I hand it to them at that point. But I've been playing with these guys, some of them for as much as 30 years. So, you know, they know that if I bring something in, it's probably going to be playable. And sometimes they play it better than I wrote it. So, which is always wonderful. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you guys are putting that together better than I thought, or better than I imagined when I wrote it. So, yeah, you just, you know, because it's amazing how much you can retain just by thinking and fingering through without your mind. Because if you don't have the time, you can't do it. So, but you have to figure out a way to get to the tune to a point where, get the tune to a point where you can sound like, okay, I know it. Or at least I can play it. Yeah. Kathy, you had a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had a system for keeping track of what you know and when you've practiced it, so that things don't fall through the cracks, or do you just sort of...
Me, I'm not good with those things, but
I'm not even, that's why I was asking.
that's why you were asking me. Some people actually have like a spreadsheet, you know, color-coded spreadsheet, but I'm not wired with that part of my brain like that to have color codings and all that. Knowing okay, now I can switch this tune to the new color and everything. But, you know, it is kind of a good idea for a while to keep a record of the tunes that you know, and you might even put them in an Excel file. And I always encourage my vocal students to do that. And also to have a list of maybe the 10 tunes that if you walk into a jam session that you know that you can slay. Okay? And then, because when you walk into the jam session, they're going to say, what do you want to play?
You say, I want to play this.
And you say, I want to, you know, is it okay if we do this tune? Well, if they say, no, we don't want to do that tune, then you got to come up with something else. So if you have a list of tunes that you're good with, then you can do that. And then have another list that, okay, I can get through these tunes, say another 10 tunes. So, you know, if you've got 20 tunes, okay, you can work your way through. And depending on, how, you know, if you're playing a gig, knowing what kind of gig it is, you know, is it a casual gig where your ambiance, or if it's a show where you're the focal point of attention. Yeah, there was another question. Yes, Hatch.
So, continuing on in that vein, I'm looking for a rough numerical estimate. How big do you think some of the repertoire should be? So you just threw out like 10 tunes that you can slay on, maybe 20 that you could
Mm-hmm.
Jamie supposedly knew 1,000 tunes, but every time I saw him play, he had a music stand that he was reading off of it. So, like, how many tunes do you think a good, reasonable repertoire should be?
I don't know. That depends on the player and also the time.
Okay.
And whether you're playing professionally or not.
Okay.
You know, if you're playing professionally, your bag has to be bigger.
Right.
So, you know, if you know, and I'm just pulling a number out of the air. If you know 150 tunes, then you're going to be able to work regularly.
Okay.
Okay. But you want to try to make that bag as big as you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lynn Seaton, I guess, is that his name, that played
Yeah.
bass here? He said he carried around a little notebook that had the tunes in them that he knew. I guess the progressions, you know, that he wrote down when he learned them, and he would go through that book and review out of there.
Mm-hmm. And of course, now you can review a lot easier with iReal Pro.
Yeah, because it's right on there.
It's right there, and you know you can do various tempos and various keys. Yeah, and so you know, as a wind player or even piano, guitar, or whatever, you can use that as your practice aid.
I don't know how many of you are like me, but when I was younger, I was taught to read music, you know, because I played in band.
Yep, most of us
And
came up that way.
Private lessons, and sight reading was like the thing to be able to do. And then when I started playing jazz, it's like the opposite. You know, reading is, I mean, you need to be able to read, I think, but it's not where my forte was. So I was like going like, man, all this ear stuff, you know. It's like, I just don't trust myself. Like a tune that I'll know, like this morning we played
St. Thomas.
Yeah, I know that tune.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't trust myself. I wanted to see it, and
Yeah, you kind of have to force yourself, because
Yeah.
I was kind of like that. You know, I was sure but not totally sure, so I would get the book out before iReal Pro came out. But what you have to do is you just have to force yourself and put it away. And occasionally you're going to hit a clam, and you know you're gonna mess up a tune or something. But the more that you do that, force yourself to put it away, not even get it out, not look at it, you'll get better at it.
Excuse me, Chair.
Okay, yeah, trust me.
One of the things, we'll talk about this tomorrow, some of these things that we all face as we get older and remember things and don't remember things. No, but it's a legitimate question, and Jerry's exactly right, took away, but don't be fixated about making a mistake. If we were perfect human beings, we wouldn't have to worry about it. We're gonna make mistakes. And to answer your question, Jerry, remember the thing we put together for school, with the students?
Yeah.
There's a list, and I can share that with everyone, where it has just a basic list of maybe 15 tunes, blues heads, rhythm heads. That's a place to start. You just have to start, you know, and add up what all of those are what you like, you know.
Yeah, and what kind of situations you're playing. You know, because there are certain tunes. You know, for instance, if I'm playing a casual gig at a restaurant, I'm not going to play Countdown. You know, or Giant Steps.
Yeah.
I might play Giant Steps, but play it as a bossa, as opposed to, you know, Burn It.
You're gonna play Misty and Satin Doll and
Yeah, you're going to play the things that people are familiar with. You know, and you know, if you have a regular type thing, then you can do those tunes, and every now and then you can throw in something that is an original. And I do that with my group all the time. Is that, you know, we'll play all the tunes that people know, but then we'll just slip in an original here and there.
You're familiar with learning theory and how visual learning, and
Yeah,
I've pretty much figured out I'm a visual learner.
most people are these days.
So like, and I could be absolutely wrong about this, but even when I take a tune that I know mentally, can play it without music, and put it in front of me, I think I solo better when it's actually in front of me and I can see it. But I remember my first, one of the first things I learned in college in jazz band was the director said, I want you to learn those changes. It was to Billy's Bounce. He said, I want you to learn the changes so that you have them internally. You'll be able to solo better. And it's like, okay, that's what he says, but
Yeah, you have to remember that when you're using your visual acuity here, that's using different neurons and everything
Mhm.
versus when you're using your ears.
Yeah.
Okay?
So how can I get those things to cooperate, man?
Just keep working at it.
Yeah.
I wish I had an easy, magical answer.
I was just thinking maybe I could visualize. Man, if I had a big enough vision here, I could visualize those chords in my head while
Well, I'll tell you, when I'm scat singing,
Yeah.
a lot of times I am seeing the changes go by.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. I'm actually seeing them in this invisible screen here.
Got you.
Yeah.
I'm
So-
sure. Yeah. Thank you.
There you go. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much.